the asset. And life cycle is a great word because you'll be able to track everything from the
Do you
inception
know
of the
what?
project.
Life cycle was the word I was looking for, and I couldn't get it out of my tiny brain. So you've done it for me. Thank you very much. Life
Well,
cycle.
well, no, you said it. I just picked it
Did
up
I?
from you. Yeah, you
Did
did.
I say it?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there
It's in
you
the
go.
recording, so you,
Okay.
you can.
I'm not sure I did say it, but maybe I did. Maybe I did.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm losing my tiny brain. Hello,
Hello.
Varun. Hello. Hello, hello. You all right?
Yeah, yourself?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. I've got my halo light is up there now.
Right. Okay.
Woo!
There we
So
go.
yeah, lighting up my face. It's actually not my halo light, it's my daughter's, but I've stolen it. So she'll
Yeah.
never know. So today's podcast, what
Mhm.
are we talking about, Varun?
We are talking about building regulations and
And
how they affect the increasing use of drones.
it's the increasing need for drones when it
Mhm.
comes to building regulations.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty now subject, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's interesting because I think when you talk about regulations, people always think of drone flying regulations. But actually we're talking about a different type of regulations.
yeah,
So
we're
it's,
talking
it's
about regs that involve drones, but aren't actually drone regulations,
yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Although drone regulations is a pretty controversial subject.
Yeah. Which we'll
It,
cover in a coming
we
up.
will,
Yeah.
yeah. It's yeah, the community aren't particularly chuffed, shall we say,
Mm.
about the drone regs at the moment. But hey, we'll cover that off in an extensive blog post
Mhm.
in the not so distant future.
Yeah. And we might have a guest on as well that might discuss that in more
Yeah,
detail. Yeah.
yeah, that'd be good. We got that one. We got that one planned. So yeah, more details to follow about that one
Yeah.
at a later point. So general overview of today's subject.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, tech is responsible. Um, it's responsible for the needs of the market, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, before we come to regulations, we could just generally talk about what are the great times for technology to
Mm,
emerge. And I think when you have a really pressing need in the market, and it doesn't have to be a commercial need, it could be a regulatory or a governmental or geopolitical need. Um, you come up with some of the best technology that we've ever come up with as humans. So,
Tech is a response to important needs in the market,
hmm
as is written in front
yeah,
of me.
right,
It's
yeah,
true though. It is
yeah,
true.
hmm
Um, unfortunately, things cut. I say good things because not all good things. Things do come out of sometimes tragic situations. Improvements and regulations, so to speak.
yeah,
Um, and I guess that is why we're here today to kind of talk about why those regulations are being put in place and why they're so important.
yeah, yeah. Um, and I think before we even get to regulations, I mean, just to take some examples of technology, like really high-end technology that we all
Mm,
rely on today, that have come about as a result of, governmental, whether it's laws, pressures, geopolitical environments. If you think of like almost everything we rely on, like whether it's GPS, whether it's internet, whether it's the rockets to the moon, uh,
spaceships.
spaceships, all of that stuff, actually was initially a military undertaking, or
Mm,
a government undertaking, and they kind of are funded by the government because there's just important things in those points in time. I think
yeah.
it's an interesting thought experiment to think whether we would have those things if we didn't have the right environment for those things to naturally be funded and develop and get to the stage where they are today. So
Yeah, I mean, it's the constant advancement in technology. It all stems from somewhere.
mm,
Whether that is government or military funded, it
mhm.
often finds its way into the consumer market.
Yeah,
Can take time,
yeah,
and has taken
yeah,
a lot of time. I
yeah,
mean, GPS, for example.
Yeah.
That was being used by the military for a long time before we got our grubby mitts on it.
Yeah.
And now it's everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
it's in your phone. It's
Yeah.
you know, in drones, it's in cars, it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere.
Yeah. Even drones themselves, right? I think the very first instance of drone technology was actually in the military as well, and was purely a kind of military slash governmental undertaking, and eventually we got commercialized.
And now they're everywhere.
And now they're everywhere.
You know, you can't get away from them.
Now there are podcasts on it.
Exactly. Just like ours and a few others out there as well. So what governmental regulations are a forcing function for drone technology then?
Yeah. So I mean, that's an interesting question, right? I mean, so if you like think about drones and what they do today, one way of looking at it is, okay, what is happening in the regulatory environment that's going to cause a lot more adoption for drones, or a lot more usage of drones, and not just drones, but the data that comes out of drones. And I think that's an interesting thing to think about. What do you think is the kind of, what are the main regulations you think that are kind of that's going to be a forcing function for drone technology?
Drone tech? I mean, obviously we'll go on and talk about building regs because that's why we're here. I mean, that's a massive part of it. With the advancement in drone technology, kind of gone are the days of having to do things manually. You can now check a facade of a building with a drone in a hell of a lot less time than it'd take to have manually done it, with ropes or a cherry picker or whatever. You've got surveys, complete building surveys. You can create a complete survey of a building in no time at all. You can check for structural damage. You can check for leaking areas, for holes, for things that are going wrong or on their way out. The advancement in technology has helped and is 100%. Helping a lot.
It's so interesting because, for example, the way you refer to drones over there, it seems like, technology, generally speaking, is invented or discovered or whatever, is to kind of improve an existing process. And therefore it's almost always proactive in the sense that people will find better ways of doing things, whether or not there is a need for it. It's just like, it's not human nature.
Well, it's an evolution, isn't it?
Yeah. But if you think about regulation, it's the opposite in the sense that initially there is no regulation. Something catastrophic happens, and then you have regulation. Whereas, technology is more like, well, we're just going to keep making things better. And regulation is more like, well, we don't know what needs to be regulated, but here's something bad that's happened, and now that needs to be regulated. And so that's always a kind of a little bit of a, what's the word? I guess not exactly. It's a bit of a catch-up thing, the regulations that always have to play to new technology.
Well, like something, as you said, something happens, which then pushes regulations. Which we will, we will go on and talk about. There have been, and there will be, it's inevitable, catastrophic events over, in history, yes, but over the past however many years, that have introduced new regulations. And it's sad that that's the way it's happened. But, moving forward, hopefully those regulations will stop things like that happening again.
And that's all right. And that's the whole point of them, right? So they're done for good cause, good reason. And I guess couple of the incidents that come to mind, like I guess the most recent one that comes to mind, which is only like probably a couple of years ago now, which was I think the Miami building collapse. and that was because of structural issues after, I think, 40 years after construction or something.
Yeah.
I have to fact checked all of that. But
Whether that,
essentially,
whether that building had been regularly maintained or checked or whatever,
no,
doesn't so to the fact that the building fell down.
yeah, yeah,
Grenfell, of course, is another one.
yeah,
Fire safety issue.
flammable, yeah,
Yeah, and then you've
materials,
obviously got things like natural disasters, which can't be helped.
yeah,
With the horrible incident that's happened in Turkey and Syria
yeah,
over
yeah.
the last few days.
Last few days, yeah,
But again, when you're going up against a natural disaster, that's not always something that can be
yeah,
helped.
Mm.
Yeah. It's horrible to come on a podcast and talk about miserable things.
Yeah.
But, miserable stuff, tragic stuff will often lead to change.
Yes. 100%. There's a silver lining to all of this. So I think because of some of these incidents, and also generally being kind of reactive to these things, the building regulations have definitely kind of taken a turn. And I mean, if you look at some of the things that have been introduced recently, I mean, to look at both across the pond and in the UK.
Yep.
So we know that for example, there has been a facade safety program that has been introduced in New York, whereby if I sort of try and bring that up on the screen, and we'll add that into the video. Essentially, owners. So this is the facade inspection and safety program, FISP, and there's filing instructions for this. And essentially, owners of buildings higher than 6 stories must have exterior walls and appurtenances inspected every 5 years, and a technical facade report must be electronically filed within the department through DOB. So that's kind of where we've ended up with in terms of having something. In hindsight, it seems like the obvious thing to do, doesn't it? Like,
yeah, totally,
inspect facades and maintain them regularly.
Yeah.
But it takes something catastrophic for something like this to come about. So
yeah, you've got, I mean, New York, some of those buildings are huge, skyscrapers that you'd expect to be, maintained on a regular basis. Are they? Who knows? I don't know, but hopefully, the facade safety program will start implementing change and making things better and things happening. I mean, it's the UK. We've got the building safety regulator.
Yeah.
Again, I'll bring it up here. It will be on screen for our viewers and unfortunately not our listeners. But building safety reform introduces decision points during the building's design, construction, and completion. The building safety regulator will become the building control authority for high-rise buildings. Applicants will no longer be able to choose their building control body. BSR will assess whether duty holders are considering both building safety and regulatory compliance. BSR will have a range of new enforcement powers through the design and the construction of the development. Obviously, the rest is there on screen to see. But again, it's another regulation that's needed, to give it a uniform approach.
Yeah.
Where it is under some kind of management and control.
Yeah. Yeah. And the same holds true for, I mean, we were just talking about the Miami building. So you've got the same. There's a legislation now in Florida for condos. So I'll put it up on the screen later. But if you look at the Florida Senate, there's the SB4D building safety bill summary, which basically requires condos and cooperative association buildings that are 3 or more stories in height to have a milestone inspection of the building's structural integrity by an architect or an engineer when the building reaches 30 years of age, every 10 years thereafter, or 25 years of age and every 10 years thereafter if the building is located within 3 miles of a coastline. So so it's really a function of kind of response, as we talked about, and it's interesting to see how some of these things are going to develop and what sort of technologies outside of drone technology is going to be employed to be able to make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, a big one for the UK is the Building Safety Act, which comes into force this year, I believe.
Yeah.
Again, we'll bring it up on screen, and we'll also drop all the links for these will be dropped in the description below, so you can go and have a look yourself. But basically, the Building Safety Act, it basically overhauls the existing regulations, creating lasting change, and makes clear how residential buildings should be constructed, maintained, and made safe.
Yeah.
As a regulation, which again, it can only have a massive advantage.
Yeah.
Safety is paramount. Really,
100%.
we can say it time and time again. I mean, whether it's obvious in drone operations, but if you're living in something, you want to know it's safe.
Yeah,
you don't want it falling apart or exploding or or whatever.
Yeah.
So regulations are a good thing, but as we've already said, sometimes it stems off of the back of something tragic to create that change.
Yeah,
I'm miserable. I've been quite miserable. Miserable post. Never mind. We'll carry on.
Yeah. Well, at least we're talking about what the things that have come into place that are kind of looking at how things can be done better this time.
Yeah,
and that's just the nature of human.
Exactly, and it's advantageous, isn't it? It's all about change.
Yeah. What do you think some of these new regs mean for building owners? What can they expect to?
They can expect a kind of appropriate documentation on the completion of their project.
Yeah.
They'll have all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted.
Yeah.
I know back in the 80s, some projects, I mean, weirdly enough, saying that the development that I live in or live on actually wasn't finished correctly.
Right.
The contractor ran out of money, so a lot of the houses weren't properly completed. I know a lot of the brickwork was actually, instead of being filled correctly when they did the final kind of touch-ups on it, I can't remember what it's called, it was actually filled with concrete.
Right.
So a lot of the buildings are now, the brickwork's actually coming away, so they're all having to be repointed.
Oh, wow.
So obviously that, fingers crossed, wouldn't happen now.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying my house is going to fall to bits, but I know a lot of the buildings around here weren't actually completed correctly or in a timely manner.
Yeah,
I rent, so I'm not that bothered.
Right.
It's not my problem. But that wouldn't happen now.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's great because that's another nice little thing that building owners have in terms of proper documentation on completion of buildings. And this is true for both commercial, residential, different types of buildings. And I would imagine that if you've got especially like high story buildings, I think with the building safety regulator in the UK, as far as I know, there's any building over 18 meters in height will have proper documentation, pre-build, during build, post-build, and regular inspections. So I think those are great things to have.
I think there's a lot of big contractors out there that will already be following that basis of rules. I'm not going to say who, or who I think they are. But it obviously opens that up to every building contractor. So from the big, the big contractors right down to the small people, they'll all have to follow the same regulations to their build, which can only be a good thing, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think, and as you mentioned, like the different contractors, whether they're large tier 1 contractors or the smaller local contractors, I think each one of them they understand the effect that it's going to have in the way they design things, the way they develop things.
Some
of them don't design the things; they work with architects to design the things, and architects now understand what will go on in terms of during the pre-build, post-build process. So I think it's going to be good because everyone will have consensus on, what needs to be documented and how it needs to be version controlled. And in some sense, it's really, really sort of nice to see this happening for the physical world because it's really hard to do it for the physical world. I think if you think about, it's a lot easier to do it in the digital world with the software side of things. I mean, we have documents, you can create version 1, version 2, version 3, whatever, you can go on till infinity, but
you can go on and on and on.
Yeah. But it's hard to do that for the physical world. And I think for the first time now, because of regulation, we're probably going to start having some of this. So that's good.
Yeah, it'll be good. It will be good. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Let's be more positive. Yeah, let's take it on a positive twist because we were rather negative towards the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously we had to be negative to get to where we are with the with the regulations that are coming into effect. So kind of, I guess we kind of covered off a little bit of what it means for contractors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Regular inspections will be part and parcel.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for the drone industry?
Oh, this is where things get interesting for us now, or for the entire industry, really. No. So I think because two things are happening simultaneously. One is that we have these regulations which are becoming the norm for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And then secondly, the cost of the drone operation is becoming lower and lower. Because of the fact that the drones are more affordable, the software is more affordable, the sites are closer,
and the tech is getting better.
The tech is getting better. Yeah.
But making drone missions more efficient.
Yeah.
And time more efficient for the operator.
Yeah. So I think we might get to frequent flying, more missions overall, more data overall.
Repeat missions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Repeating over and over again.
Yeah.
Which will lead on to a subject we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
And it will give the ability for version control.
Yeah.
So you'll have, you can start with the beginnings and take it through the whole process.
Yeah.
But you don't have to stop at the end.
Yeah.
You can keep going and going and going and, building basically a life cycle of that development or property or building, which of course is 4D.
4D, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think though that's basically where we get into 4D digital twins of the asset. And life cycle is a great word because you'll be able to track everything from the inception of the project.
Life cycle was the word I was looking for, and I couldn't get it out of my tiny brain. So you've done it for me. Thank you very much. Life cycle.
Well, no, you said it. I just picked it up from it. Yeah, you did.
Did I say it?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Recording, so
okay. I'm not sure I did say it, but maybe I did.
Yeah.
I'm losing my tiny mind. Yeah, I mean the life cycle of the development, the building, the property, whatever. You don't have to stop when the building has been constructed.
Yeah,
you can keep going.
Yeah.
Once a month, twice a month, once every 6 months.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. You would build a digital representation of that development structure, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
and that all comes through kind of regular inspection.
Yeah, and the way I think about it is that I guess the frequency of inspection probably is correlated to where the asset is in the life cycle. So if you are just starting out with a build, maybe there's inspections every week, if not every day. And as things get more and more mature and built up, probably they become every few months. And then we know from regulations that have to be every few years. For buildings that are 6 stories or higher. In some of the depending on the geography you're in, it could be 6 stories, it could be 18 meters. So I think I guess it's still going to be frequent. Maybe the update loop is going to be bigger over and over.
Yeah.
But it's great to see that, we're going to be seeing some of that. We're going to be living through some of that. So yeah,
It's going to be
and
cool.
it's going to be cool. Yeah. And we've been doing that with the mill, haven't we? So
Oh, the mill. She had to turn up today, didn't she? She had to,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I will be back at the mill later this week, collecting more data.
Mhm.
I'll collect data until they tell me I can't.
The mill's never been photographed so much
It
previously. It's just
hasn't.
getting a
It
lot of
hasn't.
attention.
She's getting a lot of love. And I speak to different people I don't think I've met the same person twice
Right.
since I've been there.
Right.
And they always ask me the same questions,
Yeah.
oh, is this for development? Oh, is this for this? Is this for that? And I say, no, this is just for me and
It's
the
just for me.
company I work for. We use this as a test ground, and no one's ever complained about it.
Yeah. That's cool.
But it is a great site to collect data. As we discussed yesterday, it's actually quite an awkward site to shoot.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
quite a hard site to shoot. So it makes our life not more difficult. It's more of a challenge for us, which means we can then hand that challenge over to our customers and clients, really.
Yeah. Hopefully hand the solution as opposed to the challenge. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it is a challenge, but we've got it covered. We've got it covered, folks.
Covered.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Covered.
So, but I guess, yeah, the where we basically were at was that, you have this sort of continuous inspection of the same asset, which leads to this digital record of the assets and information. And I think that really sort of kind of goes back to this idea of the golden thread of information in terms of all the documentation and tracking of all the different activities that went into kind of creating something, and kind of like a digital audit record of everything that happened. Because again, I think that mistakes will be made. We're not going to be perfect even this time around. I think we're going to be less wrong than how we were in the past, but there's always going to be opportunity to do better. And I think just like, like a video recording, you can very easily just go back and forth and see how, what happened at X point in time.
You
can do the same thing with buildings.
It's a learning curve as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you've got all this constant data, this record of its life cycle. See, I've definitely said it now.
Yeah.
You can go back and see, maybe that wasn't done correctly then, or you do have this digital representation of your asset.
Yeah. That's the underlying thing that drones are enabling, right? So it's not so much about the drone or the hardware or the fact that it flies. It's the
collection of data.
Yeah.
And the collection of high quality data, as we always say.
Yeah. 100%.
High quality data allows for easy put my teeth in. Allows for easy visualization and digestion of data.
Yeah. I would say that's more the software. So I would say that like the drone enables the collection.
Yeah,
but
so
at the end of the day,
what I mean. You collect the data with the drone, but that's all it is. As we've said time and time again, the drone's just a tool. Yeah, you fly, it's got a camera, whoopee. It's actually, once you've collected that data, what happens with that data, which is obviously the software, which allows for easy visualization and digestion of the data.
Yeah.
As long as that data is high quality.
Yeah.
And not rubbish. It's not rubbish with Hammer. It is high quality, just so you know. I sound like a salesman now. Right. It's the software that does, it is the advantage.
Yeah. So the way to think about it is that I think a lot of people, once you subscribe to the fact that yes, buildings need to be inspected and you have these regulations that are there for the right reasons, and everything needs to be properly tracked and documented, and drones are the way to enable this. I think what happens inevitably, and we've seen this with so many customers, is that they go and collect data, but then what they end up with is another problem of like too much data and too many files. And I think there was a statistic I was reading the other day, which was I think 40% of the working time working day in some organizations, where there's a lot of data, is actually spent on finding the right file. 40%. It's just, that to me is just crazy.
That's it. It's a
Yeah.
waste of time, is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
If you've got a means of organization, and in our line of work, collection and organization, to be able to put that data together and find that data is a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's basically what we do at Hammer, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if a building is 3D in physical world, it should be 3D in the digital world. It should not be just an image somewhere.
No.
And in fact, if the inspection is 4D in the physical world, it should be 4D in the digital world.
Yeah.
So you should just mirror exactly the physical world.
And that's what we're trying to kind of drum into people, that the future is the ability to create these 3D representations of your building structures or developments.
Yeah.
Which can then obviously become 4D, because you can keep tracking them over time. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. All powered by, that flying hardware, that we thought that has always had some, issue with public perception in terms of privacy and, concerns around, but actually it's just making things safer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Countless times I've been shouted at about, never at the mill, as I said, but yeah, countless times I've been shouted and hollered at because I'm, invading someone's privacy when I'm not. I'm just doing a job.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a huge advantage and a huge bonus to these amazing flying machines that we have.
Yeah.
That inevitably, in the long run, are going to make things safer.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good way to round off.
Yeah.
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 And credits.
There you go. Rolling credits. Just two names and we're done.
Yeah, 2 names and we're done. I guess it's not only, the drone, so to say, that's making things safer. It's the people behind the sticks and the people processing the data that will then go on to improve the quality of the building projects or whatever's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I find now credits.
Now credits.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because we always thought drones are making these inspections safer or helping people keep their feet on the ground. And that's an obvious thing to think. But actually drones are making buildings safer.
Yeah.
Which, is just, if you told that to a like someone who is not in the industry, I wonder if the public perception is going to change. It's like, it
is part of the process of making that building safer.
Yeah.
I mean, chuck a drone in the air and go, that's making buildings safer. People go, rubbish. But in the grand scheme of things, in the whole process of the life cycle of that building being created, that drone is part of it.
Yeah. 100%.
So, yeah. Big up the drones. That's what I say. There you go. That was cool. So there you go. A little brief on regulations, which we then obviously spoke quite heavily about drones as well, because that's what we do here at Hammer.
Yeah, 100%.
So as per usual, if you've liked what we've done, give us a like. Ring the bell for more videos from us as and when we put them out. Got any comments? Drop us a comment. The links for the regulations from both here in the States will be in the description box below.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure as per usual, Varun.
Yeah, likewise, Alex.
And I will catch you later on.
Yeah, catch you later on.
Awesome,
brilliant,
nice one.
Nice.
Cheers, Varun. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.